Hey, this channel is all about aesthetic optimism, and I talk a lot about art appreciation, talk about what it means to appreciate a work of art. So that's what I want to go into. Today, I'm going to give a little bit of an analogy for appreciating a work of art, and that's going to be analogous to understanding a technology. So I think that it is analogous, the work of art is analogous to technology, and this is very different from I'm reading something from Thomas Kolka right now, and he seems to make an analogy between a work of art and knowledge. And I think that's wrong, like a theory, scientific theory, he thinks is similar to a work of art and that they need to be analogized. But I think it's a mistake. And the reason why is because really a technology is composed of lots of knowledge. Lots of knowledge come together to make a technology. And similarly, with a work of art, lots of knowledge come together to create a work of art. And I think really that's the way to see it. And so to really appreciate a work of art, I think appreciation is similar to understanding. Maybe it's exactly the same thing, maybe not, I don't know. But to appreciate a work of art means something like understanding the work of art. But to understand the work of art, you wouldn't want to only understand the work of art itself, you want to understand the components of it. So let me just tell the analogy here. If I were to want to understand a rocket ship, I think the first step would be to see what knowledge it is composed of. Right? It wouldn't be that just feeling good when I think about rocket ships is the way to understand it. It's not just that when I encounter a rocket ship, I like it. It's not that when I see a rocket ship, I can draw the design, like the external design of a rocket ship, where I can just make an image similar to the rocket ship. Even making the rocket ship itself may not be understanding the rocket ship. It's about understanding the knowledge that composes, that makes up the rocket ship. So, like understanding how the fuel powers the thrusters and how much thrust you need to lift the weight of the entire rocket ship, and understanding the constraints of the weight leading to material constraints, like you need a particular material, understanding that you need a particular material that's constrained by the friction and because it's interacting with the atmosphere, things of that nature. They all have constraints on each other and there's external constraints. Understanding those things is what it means to understand the rocket ship. And then when you understand the things about fuel, the things about material science, maybe something about aerodynamics or other types of dynamics, when you understand those, your understanding generalizes to other things. So this is really the difference between I can completely remake the exact rocket ship. That's one type of understanding that I think is like a limited, not really understanding something. And then there's understanding the knowledge within the rocket ship and then being able to apply it to other things. So I know that the aerodynamics of a rocket ship um, in some ways would be similar to the aerodynamics of a car. Now, I actually don't know if that's true. I'm just giving an example, but I don't know anything about rocket ships. So I don't know if that's actually true, but you see what I mean here. I think you understand what I'm getting at. And then you would be able to understand differences in the rocket ship. So like you would understand if you had a smaller rocket ship made of different material, then you would know what differences you need to make with the amount of fuel that it can use and so on. You can see the different changes with the constraints and different changes, and you can apply it differently to different types of technologies. Do you see what I mean there? And another very important aspect would be that you understand who else understands it. So if I understand rocket ships and I'm talking to another person, I would immediately know if they could understand the things. Like if I'm talking to a mechanical engineer, they might know enough about the mechanics to understand the mechanical part of the rocket ship. If I talk to a chemical engineer, I know that they would know enough about the fuel and how it powers the thrusters, right? I have an awareness of the other people that would understand the knowledge that's in the rocket ship. I know who to consult. And I also know that, if I'm talking to a regular person who is a layman and doesn't have all of the knowledge of a rocket ship, I would know how to modify what I'm talking about with the rocket ship so that they can understand it to some degree. So there's this idea of understanding the knowledge in a rocket ship, understanding the constraints that the knowledge has on itself, like the understanding the constraints that the various bits of knowledge within the rocket ship have on each other, understanding why it's constrained from the external world, understanding who else would understand it. These are all things that mean you understand the rocket ship, right? And you can generalize that knowledge to all that is important to understanding a rocket ship. And so I think something very similar is going on with appreciating a work of art. If I appreciate a work of art, I should be able to understand the knowledge that the work of art is composed of. I should be able to understand the constraints that each bit of knowledge has on each other, and why there might be some constraints from the external world that constrain certain parts of the knowledge, and why does that happen? And I should be able to generalize it. So understanding that this knowledge works in this knowledge fits in the particular work of art I want to appreciate, but also it fits in another work of art, or it fits in something that's slightly altered, or if I change this, how would it fit differently? Understanding all those things. And then finally, if I understand the work of art, I should also understand who else would understand it. Like, I know that if I appreciate a certain thing about classical music, I should know what requirements, what is the prerequisite knowledge required to understand that thing. And then I can understand that other types of minds that can have that same knowledge. This is what I think it means to appreciate a work of art. It is to understand the knowledge that composes that work of art.